I don't know about you, but I find it quite hard to be hopeful for the future. It's one that just promises the repetition of past mistakes. As Kaya mentioned, my education and research into human rights and resistance movements revealed to me the way different divisions are cast across the globe. But I want to focus on us in Britain, because we experience something quite strange, something hard to articulate, and we all experience it. To me, this strange thing causes history to repeat over and over and over again, and it keeps us divided, and it makes the future seem so hopeless. But what is it, and what is our role in all of this? You see, by understanding our collective duty, we can be cycle breakers that divert the path that history is on to a more hopeful future. But there's a lot of work to do. And we're going to start some of that work today by going back to the 70s and considering what Britain was really like back then. You see, Britain in the 70s was divided. There was growing anti-immigrant sentiment, rising unemployment, and a mid-decade recession. This left fertile ground for the rise of a far-right political party called the National Front. And at the same time, racist violence became an ever-present, hatred in Britain. Whether it be verbal abuse, vandalization to homes or property, or even the self-proclaimed Paki-bashing gangs roaming the streets. Self-proclaimed. It wasn't safe to be a person of color in Britain. And this sense of safety was almost entirely destroyed following the separate murders of Gurdeep Singh Chaggar and Altab Ali. Both murders sparked mass mobilization from South Asian communities, led by South Asian communities. And the cycle is repeating. You see, the cost of living crisis is in full swing. There's growing economic inequality, and anti-immigrant sentiment seems to resonate with so many of the British population. And last year, we saw an indictment of the current state of affairs. Britain erupted. Over 6 days, members of the far right took to the streets. Racist violence swept the UK once again. But we were good. We did good, guys. We took to the streets. We said, there's no space for racism in Britain. We were anti-racist, but why are we having to repeat this message? They were saying the same thing in the 70s, and we're saying the same thing now, so we must have missed something, right? You see, we can draw some parallels where economic inequality or economic hardship rises, anti-immigrant sentiment grows, and racist violence spikes. The cycle is repeated. We are having the same conversations over and over and over again. But why? We've missed something. And I think that will become clear when we look at the racialized minority movements and consider, what were they actually fighting for? You see, if we go back to the 70s now, the Southall Youth Movement, who organized a mass mobilization following the murder of the previously mentioned Gurdeep Singh Chaggar, they sparked the foundation of various Asian youth movements across the country. And not only were they anti-racist, anti-fascist, not only did they want to improve the safety of people of color in Britain, but they were inspired by Black power and civil rights movement ideologies. What does that mean? Well, they saw racist violence, and they also saw institutions perpetrating the same thing in a different way, whether that be racism in the police, racism in school, racism in the legal system, you name it. They wanted to challenge that. But we can dig a little bit deeper here because we haven't quite touched on what's missing. You see, if we consider who these people were, well, the Asian youth movements were made up of a generation of young people who may not have been born in Britain, but their formative years would have most definitely been shaped and sculpted by Britain and its culture. Because the previously vast British Empire and its gravitational pull through its imperial forces dragged people from around the world to the motherland. You see, what was once an invitation was distorted to look like an invasion of people of colour into the heart of the UK. From an invitation to an invasion. So why is this context important? Well, if we lean on that, it changes what everything else looks like, because when we now consider racial violence in the UK, whether it be back in the 70s or now, it's not just an individual act of hatred. No. It's the ongoing violence of an empire that had seemingly fallen. The ongoing violence of an empire that had seemingly fallen. And it still impacts all of us today. Why? Because it informs our sense of belonging. Who belongs in Britain and who doesn't? And that's ultimately what these youth movements were fighting for. It was this sense of belonging. But it wasn't shared with them, and it still isn't. So, what can we do? Well, we need to redefine Britishness, because when Britain went beyond its borders, so did Britishness, and it imposed itself around the world. When Britain went beyond its borders, so did Britishness. And if we don't incorporate this into our understanding of who we are and who the people around us are, then we're misinformed about ourselves. And we're misinformed about the ways we are divided. We'll never come to a conclusion. The cycle will keep repeating until we have the uncomfortable conversations. We need to change our perspective. We need to share the sense of belonging. We need to confront the history of domination exuded by the British Empire. And we need to take this new understanding, take it with us to our homes, when we're watching TV, when there's decisions being made that we don't agree with and we're wondering why. It's connected. We need to take it to our communities. We need to educate the miseducated, spread the word that this stuff's still going on. By sharing the sense of belonging, we can become the cycle breakers, and we can channel our energy elsewhere and do what the Asian youth movements were campaigning for and challenge the institutions and the systems that keep us divided. Thank you.